Information traveled through copper wires in short, mechanical bursts. Dot, dash, dot, dash. This rhythm was the heartbeat of global communication, and the company that owned this heartbeat had it all. Western Union. This company, which connected an entire continent with cables, operated governments, stock exchanges, and newspapers all through its own network. In a world hungry for speed, they were the only solution. Yet in the shadow of this giant, an idea was taking shape that no one took seriously. Alexander Graham Bell was a young man, broke, unknown, but completely obsessed with a single question: can the human voice be transmitted over a wire? To most people at the time, this was a ridiculous idea. The telegraph already existed. It was a fast, reliable, and official means of communication. People could send messages, keep records, and prepare legal documents. Why would anyone need to hear a voice? Bell spent his days in a small workshop. He experimented constantly and faced failure after failure. But he didn't stop, because he wasn't just building a device. He was trying to change the way people communicated with one another. In this video, I'll discuss one of the most valuable offers in history, the one between Western Union and Graham Bell, and what happened next, and I'll outline 2 alternative scenarios that could have changed the world. The most costly mistake in business history wasn't caused by stupidity. This mistake stemmed from certainty. Let's take a look. Fast forward to 1876. Alexander Graham Bell had just been granted a patent for the telephone. The device worked, but Bell didn't have the funds to bring it to market. So he and his partners made a logical decision. They went straight to the leader of the telecommunications industry, Western Union. Their offer was clear: all telephone patent rights would be transferred to Western Union in exchange for $100,000. In today's money, that amounts to several $1,000,000. But for a company of Western Union's size, it wasn't even a significant sum. Western Union's president, William Orton, had the offer reviewed. The device was tested. It worked. And then Orton gave his answer. This telephone has so many shortcomings that it cannot be taken seriously as a means of communication. By its very nature, this device has no value to us. These were Orton's exact words. And the truth is, Orton wasn't entirely wrong at that moment. First, the phone's sound quality was poor. The connection was unstable, and its range was limited. And there was constant static. So was the real problem the phone's technical issues? Of course not. For Western Union, communication was already a solved problem. The telegraph was fast. It was reliable. It was written, meaning it was official, could be recorded, and could be used in legal proceedings. The telephone, however, was a device designed to enable 2 people to speak in real time. And in 1876, this seemed more like a curiosity than a revolution. Orton saw it as a toy. He couldn't envision a telephone network covering every city in America. Western Union said no. Instead of backing down, Bell founded the Bell Telephone Company with his investors in 1877. And then something unexpected happened. People loved the telephone. The telegraph took time. You had to write a message, hand it to an operator, and wait for it to be delivered. The telephone was different. For the first time, people could talk, instantly, directly, without waiting. This simple difference would be enough to change everything. Businesses began adapting quickly. Banks, merchants, companies, they all started using the telephone to speed up decision-making. Then came the individuals. Families, friends, people in distant cities, all of them were suddenly connected in real time. The telephone was beginning to become a necessity, and all of this was unfolding right before William Orton's eyes. Orton had realized his mistake. The market was changing, and Western Union was falling behind. They wanted to respond quickly. Western Union deployed their most powerful weapon to invalidate Bell's patent: Thomas Edison himself. Edison began working to develop telephone technology and establish an alternative system. Thanks to this, Western Union started manufacturing its own telephones. However, there was a fatal problem. Bell held the patent on the telephone's fundamental operating principle. This meant that any similar device carried legal risks. Bell sued Western Union. And this lawsuit was no ordinary commercial dispute. It was a battle that would determine the future of communication. The court confirmed that the fundamental telephone patent belonged to Bell. Western Union was forced to completely withdraw from the telephone business. All the equipment they owned was transferred to Bell. The winner of this case was Graham Bell. They no longer had any rights to the technology they could have purchased for $100,000. Now let's go back in time. In 1876, Graham Bell made the same offer to William Orton in the same room. But this time, William Orton considered the offer, paused for a moment, and said just one word, "Deal," and Western Union bought the telephone. At that very moment, the course of communication history changed. So, what would have happened? Let's take a look. Western Union already owned the telegraph. Now it owned the telephone as well. With two technologies under its control, no competition, no alternatives, it solidified its dominant position at the top of the market. Thanks to this groundbreaking move, the telephone became widespread, but this expansion occurred only at the pace Western Union dictated. New features, only if the company approved them. Prices, high, because there was no competition. The rapid technological progress we take for granted today would have been replaced by controlled and slow progress. The smartphone in your pocket might not have appeared for another 20 years. Of course, that was an optimistic scenario. In a second scenario, the spread of the telephone was deliberately slowed down. Western Union's primary source of revenue was the telegraph. The telephone, however, posed a threat to this. What if the company had consciously slowed down the spread of its own revolutionary technology in order to protect its existing profits? The laying of new lines would have been delayed. Development budgets would have been kept low. Telephone access would have been limited to certain cities. Because rapid growth would have meant the end of the telegraph. What would the result have been? People would have continued to use the telegraph for years longer. The culture of instant communication would have emerged much later. And this delay wouldn't have been limited to the telephone. Radio would have spread later. Television would have developed later. The internet, meanwhile, would likely have been delayed by decades. The modern world as we know it would have arrived more than 20 years later. And in my opinion, that would have been the worst-case scenario. Western Union's story has played out time and again throughout the 20th century. Kodak invented the digital camera in 1975. Then, because it threatened its film business, the company shelved the technology. Blockbuster had the opportunity to acquire Netflix for $50 million. However, they laughed off the offer. Nokia dominated the mobile phone market until it lost its leadership. This cycle is always the same. A giant controlling the present cannot even imagine losing it. The most dangerous words in any industry are, "We've already solved that problem." Western Union had solved the communication problem, and precisely because of that, it failed to see the next solution coming. Let me know in the comments, which company do you think is making the same mistake today, enjoying the present while the future slips through their fingers? Don't forget to like and subscribe. See you in the next one.